Honda drivers do everything right. They change the oil, they avoid potholes, they maybe even baby the car on long trips. But there are 7 specific habits that are quietly killing Honda engines, transmissions, and brakes every single day, and most owners have absolutely no idea. However, by the end of this video, you will know exactly what those habits are and how to stop them before they cost you thousands. 7. Flooring it on a cold engine. Here's something most Honda owners do not think about. The moment you turn that key in the morning, your engine oil is sitting at the bottom of the pan, thick and cold. It takes about 20 to 30 seconds for that oil to fully circulate through the engine and reach all the moving parts. During those first seconds, metal components are grinding against each other with almost no lubrication. And if you rev the engine hard right after startup, you are accelerating that wear dramatically. Now, Honda has a very specific problem that makes this even worse. The 1.5-liter Earth Dreams turbocharged engine, found in the 2018 through 2023 Civic, Accord, and CR-V, has a documented oil dilution issue. In cold weather, unburned fuel from the combustion process washes down into the oil pan and mixes with the engine oil. This thins the oil out and reduces its ability to protect the engine. This problem got so serious that it triggered a class action lawsuit. Owners reported oil levels rising on the dipstick, a clear sign that fuel was contaminating the oil. More recently, 2025 Honda Pilot owners have reported engine knocking on cold starts that escalated into full engine rebuilds at under 20,000 miles. 20,000 miles on a brand new car. The common thread in almost every single one of those cases was aggressive cold starts. Here's the fix. Just wait 60 seconds before driving. Do not rev it. Do not floor it. Let the oil circulate. It costs nothing, and it could save your engine. Next up is another mistake that happens every time you hit that first red light and has the potential to kill your transmission over time. 6. Sitting in D at long stops instead of neutral. You're sitting at a red light, foot on the brake, car in drive, music playing. Feels completely fine, right? Here is the problem. When your Honda is in drive at a stop, the torque heat converter is still pressurized. That means the transmission is generating heat even though the car is not moving. In stop-and-go traffic, that heat builds up over time, and it does real damage to the transmission fluid and internal components. And then there is something even most mechanics do not warn you about. Resting your hand on the gear lever while driving applies a small but constant pressure to the selector components inside the transmission. Do that every day for a few years, and those components wear out prematurely. It sounds minor, but the repair bill is not minor at all. A CVT replacement on a Honda Civic or Accord runs between $3,000 and $5,000 depending on the shop. Here is where it gets really serious. In April 2025, the NHTSA opened a federal investigation into over 1,300 Honda and Acura vehicles for start-stop system failures. That investigation covers up to 2.2 million vehicles. Owners of Honda Pilots have reported the car randomly shifting into neutral while driving on the highway with no warning whatsoever. Dealers have been telling owners that the transmission just needs to relearn driving habits. But Honda's own internal service bulletins quietly acknowledge these transmission behavior issues. The good news is that 2 small changes fix most of this. Shift into neutral at long red lights to take pressure off the torque converter and keep your hand off the gear lever unless you are actually shifting. This is a simple habit with massive savings. Speaking of habits that seem completely harmless until they destroy your car, wait until you hear what downhill driving is doing to your brakes. 5. Riding the brakes downhill. Keeping your foot on the brake the whole way down a hill feels like the responsible thing to do. It feels controlled and safe. But what is actually happening is that your brake rotors are absorbing an enormous amount of heat over a sustained period of time, and that heat warps them. Warped rotors cause that horrible steering wheel shake you feel when braking at highway speeds, and replacing them is not cheap. Honda CR-V owners have been reporting warped rotors at as low as 22,000 miles. That is not old enough for rotors to wear out under normal conditions. The pattern is clear. Sustained downhill braking is cooking the rotors faster than normal use would ever do. And Honda SUV drivers get hit the hardest because their vehicles are heavier, which means more heat generated on every single descent. On top of that, Honda issued a recall in June 2025, covering over 259,000 vehicles because of a brake pedal pivot pin defect. That is a manufacturing issue, not a driver issue, but it tells you that Honda's brake systems are under more scrutiny right now than at any point in recent history. The NHTSA also has an active investigation into Honda's automatic emergency braking system, activating randomly on nearly 3 million vehicles. Brakes are clearly a weak point across the Honda lineup right now. The fix for the downhill problem is engine braking. Shift down a gear before you descend and let the engine slow the car. Your rotors will last twice as long. Now you have fixed your morning routine, your red light habit, and your downhill driving. But there is one thing you are probably doing every single week that is slowly killing your fuel pump. And most people think it is completely fine. 4. Keeping the fuel tank almost empty. Driving around with a near-empty fuel tank is one of the most common habits Honda owners have. Life gets busy, the light comes on, and you tell yourself you will fill up tomorrow. The problem is that your fuel pump sits submerged inside the gas tank, and the fuel around it acts as a coolant for the pump's electric motor. When the tank is nearly empty, that pump is running hot with nothing to cool it down. Over time, the motor burns out. Honda had to confront this exact issue at a manufacturing level. In 2024, Honda issued a recall targeting a critical defect in Denso low-pressure fuel pump modules across multiple models. The defect caused sudden engine shutdown with zero warning while driving at highway speed. No sputtering, no warning light, just off. The connection between consistently low fuel levels and pump degradation means that even without a manufacturing defect, the habit of running the tank low is accelerating wear on an already vulnerable component. A Honda Civic fuel pump replacement today costs between $1,357 and $1,596. That is a steep price for a habit that is completely avoidable. Keep the tank above a quarter and you protect the pump. That is it. One habit change. But here is the thing. Some of the most damaging Honda habits are not about neglect at all. They come from features and choices that drivers actually believe are helping the car. And that brings us to our next mistake, which might be the most surprising one yet. 3. Using Eco Mode all the time. Eco Mode feels smart. Honda designed it to reduce fuel consumption by limiting throttle response and keeping the engine in a low power state as much as possible. In light city driving, it does exactly what it promises. The problem starts the moment the road gets demanding. When you're climbing a steep hill or need to accelerate quickly to overtake someone on the highway, the engine is already restricted. It has to play catch up fast, and that sudden surge from a constrained state puts real stress on the turbo and the drivetrain. The 2024 Honda 1.5 Turbo has been specifically documented for turbo lag under these conditions, and Eco Mode makes that lag noticeably worse. Drivers who use Eco Mode constantly in demanding conditions are also reporting increased fuel consumption over time, which completely defeats the original purpose. Use it on flat, easy roads. Turn it off when the road gets rough. Next up is something you are actively choosing to do to your Honda, and it is quietly frying some of the most expensive electronics on the car. 2. Washing the engine the wrong way. Taking pride in a clean engine bay is completely understandable, but the way most people do it is causing serious damage without any visible warning signs. Grabbing a hose or a pressure washer and blasting the engine bay might look satisfying, but modern Hondas are absolutely packed with sensors, wiring harnesses, and electronic connectors that were never designed to handle a direct water blast. When water forces its way into those connectors, it does not just dry out and disappear. It sits there and causes corrosion over weeks and months. That corrosion leads to sensor failures, erratic warning lights, and in worse cases, full electrical faults that are genuinely difficult and expensive to diagnose. Honda's newer models, especially the CR-V and Accord, carry more onboard sensors than ever before, which means more entry points for water damage. The correct way to clean an engine bay is with a lightly damp cloth for visible grime and compressed air for dust and debris in tight spaces. It takes a little longer, but it protects thousands of dollars worth of electronics. Now, that is avoidable for most people, but the next habit is something most Honda drivers are doing every single week without a second thought, and it is slowly destroying components under the car. 1. Turning the steering wheel while the car is stationary. This one genuinely surprises people. Turning the steering wheel while the car is completely stationary, something commonly called dry steering, feels completely harmless. You do it every time you park, every time you do a three-point turn, every time you straighten up in a tight space. It feels like nothing. But what is happening underneath is a different story entirely. When you turn the wheel while the car's not moving, the tires are being twisted and dragged across the surface rather than rolling through the turn. That friction causes accelerated wear on the tire shoulders and degrades the rubber faster than normal driving would. On top of that, the power steering system is working at maximum load with zero vehicle movement to distribute that stress. Over time, this puts serious strain on the power steering pump, the rack and pinion, and the steering column components. Honda's electric power steering systems, found across the Civic, Accord, and CR-V lineup, are particularly sensitive to this because the motor is working hardest exactly when the car is sitting still. Repairs to the steering rack alone can run between $1,500 and $2,000 on most Honda models. The fix is simple. Move the car slightly before turning the wheel, and you eliminate eliminate almost all of that stress completely. So, which of these habits did you not know about?